The XM4 is one of the most reliable assault rifles in Black Ops 6 Zombies. With unrelenting firepower and surgical precision, the XM4 is the jack of all trades, master of none. But just how good is it? How far will it carry you? How well does it do against main quest boss fights? This is the premiere episode of my Black Ops 6 Zombies weapon guides. For this episode, we're covering the XM4. The XM4 is a fully automatic assault rifle unlocked right from the start. The XM4's role in the assault rifle category is very much the jack of all trades, master of none. It doesn't have the best nor the worst of anything in its category. Pack-a-punching the XM4 will get you the Zistermeister, or Zeistermeister is probably how they want you to say it. A Zister is a surgical tool used to scrape and file bones, which is an incredibly hard pack-a-punch name if you ask me. Starting with damage. The XM4 boasts a 4,287 critical damage, and all of these damage values were tested with the legendary Tier 3 pack-a-punch with Deadshot and the Deadhead Augment, and the special and elite damage is tested with their elemental weakness, as well as Elemental Pop's Augment Vulnerabine, which increases that elemental weakness. This being the first episode of this, let me know if this is something you want me to continue or test in a different way. With its elemental weakness as well as Vulnerabine, the XM4 will deal 7,502 damage to special and elite enemies. Noteworthy here, the Abomination's weak point will give you about a 10% increase to this damage. Now in terms of boss damage, well, at least Terminus has like 17 different damage values, so I chose one of the more consistent ones at 1,432. Again, if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear how to test that a little bit more consistently. After hand testing the rate of fire of the XM4, I found that the rate of fire is about 827.5 rounds per minute, which gives the XM4 a 59,125 damage per second against normal enemies, a 103,000 damage per second against special and elite enemies, and a little under 20,000 damage per second against those big bosses. But again, at least on Terminus, there are a lot of different sections where you're doing a ton of different damage values. The ammo capacity of the XM4 is box standard with all the assault rifles. Your 30-round magazine and 360 rounds in reserve once pack-a-punched will turn into a 60-round magazine as well as 600 rounds in reserve. The reload add time that I calculated by hand was about 2.4 seconds. Now this is the reload add speed, which means as soon as I fire my last bullet, I time from that moment to the time where the number actually changes in my ammo count. But again, any feedback is appreciated. If you just want me to use the menu stat, I would happily do that. The base 30% increase in speed cola is going to bring that down to just over 1.5 seconds to reload the XM4, and the classic formula is going to shave that down even more, reloading in just over 1 second. The XM4 has the second best hip fire accuracy in the assault rifle category at 7.35 degrees per second. The iron sights of the XM4 are fairly obstructive. In the chaos of zombies with all of the health bars, damage numbers, and everything else you might have turned on, having a clean sight picture is very important. Unfortunately, the XM4 falls short. The recoil is going to be one of the XM4 strengths, having a vertical recoil of 40.32 degrees per second and a horizontal recoil of 10.59 degrees per second. This above average recoil and above average rate of fire stands out as the XM4 strengths, and the overall movement speed of the XM4 is fairly standard for the assault rifles, having a 3.2 meters per second aim down sights movement speed and a 6.5 meters per second sprint speed. You're able to aim down sights in 260 milliseconds and sprint to fire in 190 milliseconds. Once again, fairly standard for the assault rifle category. Range is luckily really never a factor in zombies, but the XM4 has a 40 meter effective range. It's going to be near impossible for you to find any engagements that are over 40 meters. But just how far through the rounds can you take the XM4? Here we have the kills per second. You can see on round 30, we are still killing about 5.25 zombies per second. And from my personal experience, the XM4 still felt really good until about the late 30s, even round 40. Taking a look at the shots to kill per round, you can see it was around round 35 where we started needing 4 shots to kill. Luckily, with the XM4's above average rate of fire, those 4 shots to kill were no big deal, meaning that I didn't feel a huge drop off until about round 38 or 40 where we started to get into the 5 shot to kill category. Worth mentioning in this time to kill per round graph here, you were still able to kill a zombie in less than half a second past round 40. And while all of these metrics are a far cry from the damage that we were doing before round 30, anecdotally speaking, I didn't feel a huge drop off until about round 40. And even then, it was still netting me quite a few kills with every burst I shot. With the XM4 dealing 59,000 damage per second, that is going to take us a little over 11 shots to kill a singular zombie at health cap. We will be able to kill just over 1 zombie per second at the maximum health. For special enemies, we're dealing 103,000 damage per second, which means it's going to take us about 20 shots to kill at that health cap, meaning it's going to take us just over a second to kill one of those Manglers or the Doppelgasts, which if you ask me, isn't all that bad. However, the elite enemies are going to take near 200 shots to kill, which means it's going going to take you nearly 15 seconds of just nothing but critical damage with the right augments without missing. Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage for those elites. In terms of recommended attachments, our build is going to be focused at dealing as much damage to the enemies as possible. And that all begins with being able to see what we're shooting, so pick your favorite red dot of choice and get rid of those obstructive irons. With the above average rate of fire, it means we are going to burn through our ammo even faster. I highly recommend putting on at least Extended Mags 2. This will get you 120 rounds once Pack-a-Punched. Extended Mags 3 will get you even more rounds after Pack-a-Punched, however, it will slow your sprint speed. The added reload time thanks to Extended Mags 2 is negated once you buy Speed Cola, and especially if you have the classic formula. And because the XM4 already has such a great rate of fire, instead of rapid fire, I would recommend using FMJ. This allows each bullet to penetrate more zombies, which means you're dealing more damage to the overall horde. However, I will recommend putting on the CHF barrel, mainly because there's no other barrel attachments that are useful, and more DPS is more DPS. And if you do decide to put on rapid fire as well as the CHF barrel, this is your new damage stat. You'll deal 4,472 critical damage, which increases your DPS to 65,000. Your special and elite damage is going to be 7,800, which means your DPS is going to be 115,000. Unfortunately, the CHF barrel does not affect the boss damage. However, with the increased rate of fire, you're going to get another 2,000 DPS out of your XM4. Unfortunately, at high rounds, this doesn't mean much. You're not saving any shots when dealing with zombies or special enemies, and you're only saving a fraction of a second when killing those elites. This will also be your new recoil pattern, which in all honesty is not that bad. Because it's mostly vertical, it's fairly easy to control. And in my opinion, side-to-side recoil in zombies is not that big of a deal, it just means a different zombie's head you're going to be shooting. As for our field upgrade, I'm going to recommend Tesla Storm. With offense and defensive capabilities, Tesla Storm will ensure that you deal damage to zombies if they get too close, but still allowing you to deal damage with your XM4. However, if you wanted to multiply your damage per second using everything in your arsenal, I would recommend either Energy Mine or Dark Flare. Between Energy Mine's carousel and distraction abilities, and Dark Flare's insane buff, you will be dealing damage to zombies non-stop. For your ammo mod, it's hard to pick anything other than Napalm Burst. Pairing it with the Firebomb and Incendiary augments, those will light a lot of zombies on fire, giving you much needed damage support in those higher rounds. However, Cryo Freeze is also a good secondary. Pairing it with the Ice Storm augment slowing down enemies, this allows you to fully utilize your incredible rate of fire and accuracy. And if you can get a chain reaction of this going, it is incredibly cool. In terms of other augments, Staminup's Stalker augment allows you to walk faster while aiming, which will come in useful when trying to get as much damage downrange as possible. Having Electric Cherry on Elemental Pop will allow you to deal damage every single time you reload, which happens quite often with that fast rate of fire. This also lets you utilize all of the different ammo mods thanks to Elemental Pop's base ability. But of course, the most important augments have to be Deadhead for further increased critical damage with Deadshot, and Vulnerabine for Elemental Pop that increases that elemental weakness. With an unrelenting rate of fire and surgical precision, this is my XM4. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And if you want to see me use it, be sure to check out this video and stay beautiful.